Ladies and gentlemen, please join Chris and I in a moment of silence for the victims in British Columbia as we honor the 6 people that were killed in last week's school shooting. Our thoughts and prayers are with you all.
President of CUPE New Brunswick, and you are listening to CUPE Talks in the Maritimes with Nick and Chris.
Do you have any takeaways that you're going to be taking from the courses that you've learned so far?
Yes. So I've done a lot of the single day training courses through CUPE already. And one of the most valuable things is speaking and discussing events and experiences with the other participants.
And I would love to see more members get involved with anything, whether it's start out on a small committee. We want to see,
Can you tell us a little bit about what you've learned here this week?
It's a great learning experience, and as long as I've been around and involved, I'm still learning.
I am Nicholas London, co-host of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes.
I'm Chris Watson, president of the New Brunswick Federation of Labor and co-host of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes.
Hi, my name is Brian Watson, former president of CUPE New Brunswick and now the producer of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes and across Canada.
Wes Wills, Local 380 Vice President.
Hey, this is Justin Spooner, Region DVP and First Vice President of CUPE 1253.
I'm Shelby Dodge, President of Local 3226.
Karen Tier, President of the New Brunswick Council of Nursing Home Unions.
I'm Jamie Agnew, and I'm the President of CUPE Local 963, representing New Brunswick Liquor Store, retail, and warehouse workers.
I'm Sherry Hillier, President of CUPE Newfoundland and Labrador, and General Vice President for the Atlantic Maritimes.
I'm Cheryl Ann Keown, and I also sit on Local 805.
Quay, hello. This is Kathy Johnson, President of CUPE 5446.
Hi, my name is Dorinda Smith. I'm from Local 813.
I'm Teresa McAllister, Provincial President of CUPE 2745 Educational Support Staff.
Bonjour, ici Alain Soucy, membre du SCFP, Syndicat canadien de la fonction publique.
Hey everyone, this is Candace Rennick, CUPE's National Secretary Treasurer, and you're listening to CUPE Talk in the Maritimes.
Hey, this is Mark Hancock, CUPE National President, and you're listening to CUPE Talk in the Maritimes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of CUPE Talk in the Atlantic. I am Nick, joined alongside my co-host, the New Brunswick Federation of Labor President, Chris Watson. Chris, welcome back to the show.
Thanks again, Nick. And like folks heard, CUPE Talk in the Atlantic. We kicked off our very first episode with a big announcement, and we're continuing that over. So we are now CUPE Talk in the Atlantic. Nick, how's it going tonight?
I can't complain. You know what? This is very exciting times. As you are aware, the switching of the name, which meant switching of a lot of different things. Of course, our leaders saying CUPE Talk in the Maritimes. All that stuff takes time. We both know that. But we're certainly off in the right direction, and we are moving in the fast lane.
Yeah, we got many different things to discuss here this evening. I know you were able to take care of some interviews for us, and, so thank you to that. I can't wait to hear them. I know our viewers can't wait to hear them. So why don't you tell us, what do we got lined up for tonight?
Well, let's see. We have Amélie Cormier, who is going to be on discussing CUPE's CUPE New Brunswick Young Workers Conference coming up in April. Mohammad Akbar is on the show today, of course, the president of Ottawa's CUPE District Council. And, of course, we've got Maria Lansing on discussing health and safety. And we've got so much more. 1281 is here discussing their ratified deal They just got done, but they're going to discuss that and break it down, and it's almost a little shocking. So there's that. There's so much stuff on the go.
You know what? That's a pretty jam-packed lineup. And, even kicking it off, like you had said, talking about a young workers conference. Of course, that gets me excited. Formerly being the vice president for young workers with the New Brunswick Federation of Labor. So I know I can't wait to hear the interview. I know our listeners can't wait to hear the interview, as well as everybody else. I know we've had Mohammad on the show before. Always a great listen when we're able to get an interview with him. And of course, health and safety. Who doesn't like to hear about health and safety? It's such an extremely important subject. When it comes to the workplace. So we have like you said, we have a jam-packed show. Lots of great content this evening. So what are we going to do first?
Well, what I want to talk about is a little bit about a certain rally that is that you wanted to touch on. I think that's most important right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So one of the rallies that we're going to be talking about right now is with our comrades and friends over at the Public Service Alliance of Canada, PSAC. I received a invite to a rally that's going to be taking place, and we all know how important rallies are, right? Because that's how you get ground, and that's how you get noticed on certain issues. Unfortunately, this isn't really a celebration rally. As always, this is a rally marking the 10-year anniversary of the Phoenix payroll system. For those of our friends that are in PSAC who know all about the Phoenix payroll system, there's a reason why they had a campaign called Feel the Burn. And I know that there's still people feeling the burn 10 years later. So this is a rally to bring awareness. And it is going to be on 2 Victoria Avenue in Miramichi, New Brunswick. And for those of you with GPS and you want to put in the postal code, I'll tell you, it's E1N0E6. And it's a call to action. There's also a registration form that you can fill out for this as well. No later than the 20th. So February the 20th is going to be the deadline to fill out the registration form. And the registration form is about transportation, and it may be available, but it is a first come, first serve on that. So it is an invite from PSAC National President Sharon D'Souza, who I have the pleasure to sit with on the Canadian Council in Ottawa for the Canadian Labour Congress, and GSU National President Bruce Roy, and also to all fellow union members. So this isn't just a rally that, is just for PSAC members, and this is also from our EVP, Chris de Liberatore, as well, who I have the pleasure to work with. So yeah, this isn't just a rally for PSAC members. Again, this is a rally for anybody that wishes to come out and support these members in their struggles with this whole Phoenix payroll system. I know we have executive council meetings on the 25th and 26th. So we're going to do our part and see what we can do as best we can as a federation to support these members. If we're obviously not able to make it to the rally, then we'll do what we can to support them in other ways, that's for sure. But again, for those that can attend, February 26th, 11 until 2, Victoria Avenue, Miramichi, New Brunswick.
Please allow me to elaborate on that as well, that, people need to realize how serious this is. If you're in the area or you're nearby, we can't say it enough. Like, if you can be there, because, when there's a call to action, we all need to do our part and make sure that we stand there and we walk that line with them and we let them know that they're not there alone. And that, that comes full circle, because there's a time when, we're in that position and we need them. So just keep that in mind. It's important. If you can be there, because I know Chris and I we're going to do our best to be there and make it be known that, you're there, and stand tall and be proud and let your voices be heard.
Right. And, even if you can only go down, we've done it before, Nick, down at the post office. If you can go down for 10, 15, 20 minutes, any amount of time matters. And I just want to make it known, too, that the demonstration is not directed at members working at the pay centers themselves. It is a show of solidarity, with their professionalism and dedication while working with a system that continues to fail workers. So again, this isn't directed at the payroll center and the workers that are working behind the scenes. They are making do with what they have. And unfortunately, they're making do with a system, like it says, that's failing workers. So again, come out and show support if you can, please.
Absolutely. Chris, let's take a quick break. I want to roll the Amélie Cormier video that to me is just top notch. Her discussing everything CUPE New Brunswick Young Workers Conference. And then I want to get your take on some of it as someone who was a young worker. And I know how important it is to you. So hang tight. We're coming right back right after this.
At Higgins Insurance, we understand that protecting what matters most, your family, your home, your livelihood, is not just a policy, it's a promise. As a trusted provider serving Atlantic Canadians for over 25 years, we're proud to offer personalized coverage tailored to your unique needs, whether it's auto, home, or life insurance. Our team is committed to transparency, reliability, and exceptional service, ensuring peace of mind through every stage of life. Let Higgins Insurance be your partner in protection. Because when it comes to your future, you deserve nothing less than confidence. The official insurance of CUPE Talk.
Hey guys, welcome to a wonderful segment. I am joined here now with Amélie Cormier, who is the young worker on a national level as she represents New Brunswick. Amélie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You have been busy.
I have.
A very exciting news came down just recently. Actually, as recent as like 2 days ago. CUPE New Brunswick's Young Workers Conference is happening on April the 14th and the 15th. Tell me, what are you feeling right now?
I'm super excited. I've been a part of planning the conference, and I think it's a really exciting conference. I hope people are able to attend, and I think it's going to be a good conference.
You're 100% right. I have no question about it. Tell me the origins to this. I know that there have been other young workers conferences, but now CUPE New Brunswick's going to hold one.
Yeah. Well, I was a part of the National Young Workers Committee last term, and we were a part of planning the first ever National Young Workers Conference. And after that conference, we put a resolution in for CUPE New Brunswick to have one, and it was accepted on the CUPE New Brunswick convention floor. And I'm excited they asked me to help plan it, and yeah.
I think it's awesome. I think it's exciting. It's long overdue. How's that?
100%. And I'm glad that I think young workers right now, I feel like you hear a lot more about it now, and I think it's exciting.
Absolutely. So tell me what it's like being not just a young CUPE member, but you're also the president of your local 4848, on top of sitting on a National Young Workers Committee representing New Brunswick. So tell me a little about that.
Honestly, it can be a lot some days, but in the best way possible. Being president of Local 4848 at 22 sometimes still feels surreal. I mean, I'm still considered a young worker in every room I walk into, but I'm also sitting at the tables where big decisions are being made. And that's a huge responsibility, and I don't take it lightly. At my local level, my focus is obviously on my members. I mean, listening and advocating, helping solve problems, and then, of course, representing them in the best way that I can. And then just being on the National Young Workers Committee, representing New Brunswick, That also means a lot to me. I get to bring the voices of young workers from New Brunswick on the national level and then bring national conversations back home. It's about making sure that young workers aren't just included as an afterthought, and we deserve real space in the movement.
Absolutely, 100%. So, what are some responsibilities you carry for reporting for young workers in New Brunswick?
I'll say at first it was challenging just because I wasn't around young workers in my day-to-day in the union life. So it made it harder to gather perspectives and ensure like meaningful representation. But over time, I've made it a priority to reach out and check in and try to create spaces for young workers to share their experiences. And just reporting isn't about just relaying information. It's about making sure their concerns, ideas, and priorities are genuinely reflected. And that's what I like about the National Committee. We bring concerns and we try to find solutions and give advice to each other. And I get to take that back to New Brunswick. And I also try to encourage young members to step forward. I mean, I started really young, so I know how intimidating that can be. So sometimes just having someone say, you know, you should apply for this or you'd be great on that can really help.
Absolutely, it can. Now, Emily, tell me some of, if any, of the young workers' conferences throughout Canada that you have attended. Obviously, New Brunswick's going to have a brand new one. You've attended national level. What about other conferences? Have you attended many young workers?
Not many like specifically for young workers. There was the national one that was attached to the Building Stronger Local, so I did attend that one, and then the conference in New Brunswick, but that would be the only real young workers ones that I attended.
I think it's unbelievable. You know, you carry a lot of knowledge. You know, I had the chance to be with you for a week in Halifax, and you're a very strong individual and very willed, and that's huge. You know, we spoke. We spoke multiple times. We had a whole week, and you know, I know that I remember you telling me your age. And I was shocked because you are just such a go-getter and someone who really knows what they want. So
Mhm.
I just want to talk a little bit about like advice, things that you would tell, and I know you're a young worker, but if that new person starting tomorrow, that really some of them are very nervous, you know, they haven't found their voice yet. You're very fortunate. You found your voice very early. But what advice would you give to people like that?
I think just first, don't underestimate yourself. And I would say not wait until you feel ready because you're probably not ever going to feel 100% ready. I sure wasn't. But you don't need 20 years of experience to have a voice. You have lived experiences. You can ask questions, attend meetings, and just get educated. I don't know everything. I'm still getting educated every single day, and I love it. I've every education I can get, I will try. And then just second, especially for me, it's find mentors. The one thing that I've learned in the past 3.5 years of my union work is that there's always somebody willing to help. And I probably have 50 people on my phone at any time that I can reach out to them for advice and support. And that network of people is a huge reason that I've been able to grow in these roles. And then just finally, just remember why union exists. It's about solidarity. It's about fairness, about empowering workers, and not just for ourselves, but for the people coming after us, and that there's a space for everybody, and we need young workers.
Absolutely, we do. We really do. Now, just I do kind of want to talk to you just a little bit about this Young Workers Conference coming to New Brunswick, because really that's the headline for us, and you being our representative here in New Brunswick for young workers. Have you had a lot of involvement in the planning of this? You have. So, what's that been like for you watching something? It's basically you're building it and now you're watching it come to fruition. What's that been like for you?
I mean, it's really exciting. Iris Lloyd, the president of CUPE New Brunswick, reached out and asked me if I wanted to be part of planning the committee, and I had a lot of ideas, and I was happy to have been reached out to. But it's April 14th to the 15th at the Fredericton Inn, and it's called, like, the theme is empowering the next generation of union leaders, and that name is intentional. We don't want this to be just another conference where people sit and listen. We really want people to leave feeling confident and capable in doing union work. And I guess just a little bit of what we are planning to cover at the conference. A couple of workshops that we're working on is just what CUPE is and how it works. Leadership pathways, so how to grow into a leader within union spaces. Collective agreements and grievances basics. We have a workshop planned on mental health tools, and then personal financial training, and then most importantly, just having real space for young workers to connect and build relationships. And the biggest thing for me is just creating an environment where young workers come and feel comfortable speaking up. A lot of us walk into these union events feeling like we don't know enough. And I just really want this conference to change that.
I absolutely love it. I think that it is tremendous. It's long overdue. Amélie, please keep up the great work that you do. And you know what? I'm going to watch you grow for years to come. And I think it's great. So proud of you. So happy I met you. Love watching everything you're doing.
Thank you.
You and I will actually, you will be back on this show, I guarantee it. And I will be in Fredericton during all of this while CUPE Talk in the Atlantic will be going on. So hopefully in person, I'll be able to get an interview with you.
Oh, gladly. And if you guys can attend the conference, I'm happy with that, and can figure out a time if you want to even promote the show there.
You're so kind. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Chris. So it's coming up April 14th and 15th. It's a big deal. Tell me a little bit about what this means to you as someone who has stood as a young worker, very proud at that, with our current CUPE New Brunswick president, Iris Lloyd. So tell me where you're at with all of this.
Well, first, I kind of take offense that you're using the term "was a young worker." I still consider myself to be young. I mean, what the heck here, right? But it means a lot. When I think back about, organizing these sorts of conferences, at the NBFL, Sister Iris and myself were actually able to, we were able to organize the very first Young Workers Conference for the New Brunswick Federation of Labor. So I know about, how much it takes to put something like this on. And I'm excited that they're forming these committees, and I'm excited that they're working together to bring their issues to the forefront and trying to get new young workers involved. It's tough sometimes, because sometimes young workers feel like maybe they don't have a place, or they don't have a voice, or they don't know how to express themselves. But they do have some great ideas, and they have a lot of great perspectives, and they can really show how, it not just being a young worker or being a worker, we'll say a seasoned worker or whatever, but how workers can just come together and work together as one solid unit. But it's important for them to have a place where they can feel welcomed, open, and able to express their feelings and able to express their interest. Because as you know, when they go to these sorts of things, that's where that little bug all of a sudden gets you when you're like, I want to be a part of this. So it's very important for all the locals to send young workers to attend these sorts of things. Because I know we got some great activists and leaders out there, and we just need to get them to these sorts of things just to kind of get them out of their shell maybe sometimes. So I look forward to it. I know I'll be there for the CUPE New Brunswick convention. I'm going to try to take a little pop in and say hello to our young workers while I'm there as well.
It's so important too. I mean, like you said, it's important that locals send their young workers to these sort of things. Because, like, even when I said to Amélie, like, she's so young still. So it's like we're going to watch her grow over the years and watch her become, she's already got a voice, but imagine how defined and how, how she's going to come across in 10 or 15 years from now. Like, she's going to be crisp. She's going to be such an activist that it's going to be mind-blowing, not to mention she's also the president of her local. So,
right. And it comes down to like the education piece, right? Where we're always talking about education. This is just a way for young workers to get educated and get mobilized. So I can't think of something, if you're going to send some people to something, this is definitely one of those worthwhile causes. So please, make sure you send your young workers and let's make this a huge success.
And not to mention, like we were talking about the CUPE New Brunswick conference coming up. We need to talk about the call, because the calls have come out from Newfoundland, from Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, and New Brunswick. So, Chris, explain to the people the importance of the call when it comes to the conventions in each province.
So the convention call. So your convention call comes out and it talks about your registration and everything. So when that call comes out, it's very important that you act quickly, book your hotels if need be, and get your book offs from your employers, submit all your proper things and get your registration in. Because there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that I don't think a lot of people realize. When you have convention committees, they're scrambling to put things together, to print registration forms, to get badges ready, kit bags and documents. And so, and even like when you're planning your nutrition breaks, like there's so many things that take place. So when that convention call comes out, as quick as you can, please get your registration forms in. So that way there, the organization knows exactly kind of what numbers they're working with, so they can give you the best possible convention that they can do. There's a lot of guest speakers and, there's all kinds of different things that take place or resolutions. So, get your stuff. I can't say enough. Get your stuff in, because all of a sudden there's nothing worse than at the very end when you get a huge influx of all of a sudden a big mass of registrations. And you're like, then you're scrambling, because there's a cost associated with it. Now you're scrambling to get funds deposited and all these different things. And it's just, the sooner you can do it, the better. But when that call comes out, get yourself registered and, be a part of it. Make your voice heard, because, when you go to these things, that's what sets the direction for the organizations. So go make your voice heard and participate.
So needless to say, what you're saying is by registering early and having it done, you're actually helping them help you. So by doing this stuff, you're actually more prepared and ready to roll.
Absolutely. I remember organizing the Federation of Labor Convention, and you're looking at things and you're going, I know we were resolutions. I remember when I first started going to convention, we would have like 60, 70 we would have a bunch of resolutions. And, I've been to the last few and I don't see as many resolutions coming forth. And I don't know why, because, if you got a situation happening within your local, or you got something going on, putting it in a resolution and debating it on the floor and passing it or defeating it or whatever it may be, bringing that to the convention is what sets the direction on what you're going to be working on for the next year, 2 years, however often you have your conventions. So participation is one of the things that drives an organization. So I know now, but it's too late, obviously, for resolutions to keep New Brunswick. And same with the Canadian Labour Congress convention coming up in May. It's too late for that as well. But when the call comes out for those sorts of things, get those resolutions in, because I know, like I said, for our convention, we were sitting there a few days just before kind of when resolutions closed, and I think we had like one. And I'm thinking, holy geez, I know there's a lot of issues out there. And I said that, we need to make sure that we cement in the form of a resolution and create a working document. And then all of a sudden it was just like, bam, 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 bam. All these resolutions come in like all at once. And we're like, okay. But in the meantime, you're scrambling a little bit because you want to do the best job you can. So, when those calls and everything come out, act on them quickly. And like I said, hotels, you need to book your hotels if you know who's going to be attending the conventions, because if you wait too long, you risk not getting a hotel where the convention is, and you might have to be further away, things like that. So act quickly, and it's always best. Again, it's just prepared.
Absolutely. Chris, let's take a quick break. We're going to hear a little bit about tires. Discount tires, that is. And we come back, we're gonna have a little more conversation and get to some more interviews.
Attention vehicle owners, tired of juggling tire issues and car maintenance? Meet Discount Tire and Automotive, your one-stop solution for comprehensive tire and automotive services. From top brand tire sales to expert installations and repairs, we've got your wheels covered. Our experienced technicians handle oil changes, brake repairs, and alignments, ensuring your car is road ready. Desire a smoother, safer drive? Discover competitive pricing paired with exceptional customer service. Don't wait. Schedule your appointment with Discount Tire and Automotive today. Drive with confidence, knowing your vehicle's in expert hands. Come in and see the team, and remember, Discount Tire and Automotive is an official sponsor of CUPE Talk in the Maritimes.
Hey guys, I am now joined with Maria Lansing, the health and safety rep and steward with CUPE Local 1734. And this is a conversation about health and safety, which Maria knows a whole lot about. So, Maria, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me. What an honor.
It is an honor for us because we know how busy everyone can be, and to take a few minutes to come on the show, it's very much appreciated. What could you tell us about CUPE Local 1734?
Local 1734 is our union located in Newmarket, Ontario, and we have a huge. We have lots of members, like a huge a part of our local, are activists that are ready to fight and to work hard together. And I think we're all passionate. We have a real passion to work together as a team.
Tell me about where this all stems from with you on health and safety. What are the origins to you? Because as I was talking to you a moment ago, you received an award, which we're going to get to at some point today on this interview. But what's the origins to Maria Lansing on the health and safety?
So as an early childhood educator, I was in the classroom in the York Region District School Board. And I found that when I did have health and safety coming into my school, I had a fear of health and safety representatives, thinking that they were there to give us a ticket, to tell us all the things that we were doing wrong. And so as I got more and more interested in the position of a health and safety inspector, I started to learn that they're not really there to do all the things that I thought at the time, with them coming in and like flagging us for this and flagging us for that. I didn't realize how important the job was of a health and safety inspector, and that they're really working for us, that they're there to make sure that we come to work and we have a safe and healthy environment to work in. And that at the end of the day, we get to go home feeling safe and healthy for our families. So as I started learning a little bit more about health and safety and taking some of the courses and going to CUPE conferences and working together with other health and safety representatives, I started to learn a little bit more. And I feel that I now am passionate enough to teach it to other people and to explain to them the reasons why we come into the workplaces and that we're working for them to make sure that they have a safe environment to work in daily.
So what keeps you passionate daily with doing the health and safety inspecting? I mean, everyone knows it can be overwhelming. And like you said, there may be other people that have shared that past feeling that you did. Uh-oh, here they come. But what keeps you motivated? How do you approach members when you're entering to look around?
So I usually introduced myself and let them know that I'm from their local, I am part of CUPE, that I understand that they may have some fears around the health and safety representatives. So I'm always very welcoming. I'm not there. I give the explanations. If there's things that I can help them with, if they have plugs underneath carpets, I can give them the little bit of the knowledge behind it, just saying, it is a fire hazard and this is the reason. And I try to give reasons to them. I can't answer every question, right, but I try to let everyone know why we're there and that we really are there for them and to make their workplace a safer place. So if I can explain a little bit about chemicals within the classrooms, or if I can explain why things can't be hanging in a hallway due to fire concerns. Those are the things that I like to go in and explain. I'd rather give them an answer instead of walking in, putting it down on our list and walking out and not giving any type of explanation.
That really must be interesting when you walk into the schools, because I know how they are here in New Brunswick, as I work in the school system as well with 1253.
Yep.
And I am on the Joint Health and Safety Committee for my building. So I understand completely what you're saying. But when you walk into a school and, you see these hazards, or if there are hazards, how often do you see them? And is it something that they understand? Is it quickly fixed and no problems moving forward?
Well, there are some things that are quick fixes and that we can do when I'm there, definitely. If there's some things that I can see that are a visible fix, I usually speak with someone, especially I can usually speak with usually the principal at the end of our visits. We sit down and we have a chat with, and some things are quick fixes. Other things take a workplace order. Some things need to be, they need to have a work order put in to fix things if it's a missing ground pin or things that are, mechanical, things like that. Little small things that we can educate. My biggest thing is just communicate that we're here to answer your questions. Come and speak to us. If there's a question you have, we have our BWW where you can look things up to educate yourself and just to continue to give the education. I think that's how I can just try to guide members through things like that.
How important is it in your mind to have these health and safety committees across Canada with CUPE? People that do the health and safety are very valuable people. I'm going to be honest, they really are, because people don't realize that you can pick up the phone if you need to and you can tell them that there's a hazard. Sometimes we tell our employer and it's like, oh, you'll be fine, just get over it. But definitely. See, CUPE gives us a whole different broad by being able to pick up the call and say, like, hey, Maria, I'm really nervous about this. And they're just telling me not to worry about it. Is that something that you see a lot of?
So I do. I really, really try to say, by speaking up, documenting concerns, and standing together through the union, that we can get through these things together. We have a voice. And when we strengthen our collective voice, health and safety is the strongest. That we can make a change when we work together. But if you're not coming in and you're not documenting things, then we really can't follow up on those things without, digging deeper. So I just think empowering our employees and making the employer accountable for things that are not in place in the workplace is just a great way to strengthen our members.
Absolutely. So how often are you in schools? Like I saw that banner that I sent to you and I had told you about it.
Yep.
But how often are you in schools? Like obviously you don't go out daily and do inspections, or do you?
So I do, actually, I do. I usually do. So from September till end of January, I am doing inspections daily. So I'm doing a high school. If I'm going to high schools, that usually takes the day to do the high school. And if I'm doing elementary schools, I can do up to 3 elementary schools in a day.
Wow, I didn't realize you actually did that daily.
Yeah, so we have to do that daily. Yeah.
So obviously you're doing a lot. So that's kind of going to bring me to the point where I want to say you were recognized for your health and safety work. So what does that kind of recognition mean to you?
Getting the Health and Safety Activist Award at the OSBCU was empowering for me. It made me feel that I had the voice and that I am able to that I'm obviously able to empower other people to be nominated and for my local to stand behind me and support me through it. I feel that they see the change and I am slowly making the change with others.
Well, I mean, it's such an honor because, they don't hand things out like that lightly.
Yeah.
And you have really put the time in. And like you were saying before we started this, you're really invested in this. Like you really enjoy this.
Yeah.
So to receive that award, what in your mind would make what makes a strong health and safety advocate?
I think that a strong health and safety advocate is someone who can listen and someone who can communicate well and someone who has a strong passion to follow through on things and be willing to take the courses and the time and a lot of volunteering time as well, to do like conferences and do things in the evening. I know CUPE offers so many wonderful courses that I think you said yourself that I love to just sign up for them, just listening in or, just following through and listening to members. I feel we do our town halls in Local 1734 and we've done a health and safety where members come and they ask the questions. And as I said before, we don't always have the answers and it gives us something new to work on. So I feel like that's my passion. And when I see members feeling empowered, it makes me feel good.
Of course it does. And, with 2025 or 2026, I think health and safety is more important now than it ever was before. So as you're getting rolling, it makes perfect sense that, you're right there and you are on everything. But I just want to kind of circle back to you're in school, so you might do 2 or 3 elementaries in a day, a high school is a day. What is that like for you? Like, obviously it's time consuming, but what is that like for you when you are walking into these schools? If you are getting bombarded, that's got to be hard on you, but also very satisfying to know that you're about to make change that will better their situation.
Yeah. So again, I feel empowered. I feel a little bit privileged to be able to walk into a building and listen to members and listen to concerns. And then I feel even better when I get to bring it back to our multi-joint occupational health and safety committee monthly. I'm also part of a violence campaign and I get to go back to student services and give the concerns that we're having as well to student services. So I feel that members are now in Local 1734 seeing the process of us working for them. They're seeing it documented in our monthly meetings with our board. They're seeing emails that are coming out that we are making the employer feel accountable for things that are happening. And I think that as members see that, they appreciate what goes into it. And now hopefully they won't be looking at health and safety inspectors that are coming in the light that they did, and they have a new light that, oh, she's actually here for me, or he's here today for me, to make me be able to go home safely to my family, to make sure I had the PPE that was necessary for my job. So I feel great when I leave. Sometimes I feel, a little overwhelmed with some of the things that are happening in schools, but for the most part, I feel good.
So how often are you training? How often are you getting educated to further this? Like, is this in a perfect world, does Maria just do this, or does she go to a whole other level with this? Because obviously you're very good at it, you're passionate, you feel good about it, as you just said. Is there more to this? Is there hope for more?
Oh, there's always hope for more. Right now, I'm back in the classroom, actually. So I'm back in my kindergarten classroom. But as you can see, I'm still doing things on the side. Next week, I have a conference that I'm going to, and constantly just doing things on the side. I'm not sure where this health and safety 50% will go. Hopefully, it'll go to a little bit more, but time will tell.
I think it's very interesting. I love it. I'm excited for you. I really appreciate you taking 10 minutes, 15 minutes to come on this and do this with me, because I'm always interested in learning more about different CUPE members from across Canada. So
I appreciate it.
No, we appreciate you, and we're thankful for all the health and safety work you do. And congratulations on winning that award, because I think that award is a very valuable award.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So thank you again, and I really appreciate you.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Take care.
You too. Okay, Chris, listen, I'm telling you now that the biggest thing to me is health and safety. It's something that has been discussed. As you heard there, Maria goes through a lot when it comes to health and safety. Obviously, she loves it. She got an award for it. That right there says it all. But let's talk a little bit about what you think of health and safety. I know you said earlier in the show that how important it is, but why don't you break it down a little bit why health and safety is so important?
Well, health and safety is important because, we talk about it at the day and morning. Nobody deserves to go to work and be injured or killed at the workplace. And it's not even just injuries or being killed. It's there's violence in the workplace. There's all kinds of other forms of health and safety that take place. Illness, injury, like there's a huge multitude of ways to practice health and safety in the workplace. But I think a lot about like I made reference to the day and morning, and we see people laying wreaths for those who have ultimately passed away due to injuries, sometimes that could have been prevented. We've had a few incidents here in the province where us as unionists, we have the Westray Act, where it hasn't been used, where maybe it could have been. There's always, I don't want to sit here and make accusations and things like that, but I do feel pretty strongly that any workplace death is preventable. So when we're seeing people laying wreaths and we're hearing names read out, we think about health and safety, and it's something that we just shouldn't think about on the day and morning. It's something that we need to think about all year long. Because, like I said, everybody deserves safe, and everybody deserves.
I couldn't agree more with you on that. I think health and safety is very. I don't want to say it's an afterthought, but in some big corporations and in some big departments, it's not thought of the way it should be, and I think it's a disgrace because no person should be going to work and not arriving back home with their family at the end. So I do find it that, health and safety needs to take a step up. Major corporations need to take it more serious. And, in a weird way, this is us challenging those workplaces to understand the seriousness of health and safety and understand the value of your employees and making sure that they are healthy and safe at work and that they can return home and, continue on with their lives as they should, as we all should.
Right. And, I think about our Blair Doucette Youth Summer Camp and the benefits of our youth attending that. One of the things that's taught at the camp is health and safety. And of course, the CLC always provides the education for that. But when we talk about it, we talk about it with them because, they're young workers. They're going into the workforce, whether it be part-time, full-time, whatever the case may be. But when we talk about it, it's not just something that pertains to a certain generation. This pertains to anybody going to work. And I'll just give you a scenario when you're talking about big corporations and things like that. I'm not going to use names, for the purpose of content here, but there was a time in, my younger years where I was asked to climb some shelving to get some product down because it needed to go quickly. And me being young, didn't hesitate, said, yeah, okay, sure. And I climbed up there and I was passing things down. And, thankfully I didn't have any injuries and things like that. But I think, what an unsafe thing to do on my part. I should have said, no, absolutely. I'm not going to do that. Like, you give me the proper safety equipment, ladder, things like that, whatever the case may be, and then I'll be willing to do it. But one thing to keep in mind here, obviously, in the province of New Brunswick, is and like everywhere else, is the right to refuse unsafe work. It's okay to refuse unsafe work, but just go through the proper procedures. Don't refuse and leave the workplace. And I'm not doing that and leave. There's proper protocol and proper procedure to do it, but don't be afraid to refuse unsafe work if you don't feel safe doing it.
Very important, and that's a very, very smart of you to say that, because a lot of people don't understand, a lot of that. And I think that having you speak of that right there, that's super good and super important that they understand that you're right. Don't leave, don't walk off the job, things like that, but follow protocol and procedures, and something will be done about it. Absolutely, something will.
Yeah. And one thing that's always good too, and I always refer people to, is CUPE.ca. You can get information too all about health and safety, and you can order materials for your locals that can be sent right and used and mailed right to your house direct. So utilize the materials that are at your fingertips like that. So go online and order some health and safety materials and check them out.
Or do what I do. I just send them to Chris's, and then Chris brings them to me. So it's almost like that's just what I do. I send it to Chris and make him come see me. It works every time. He's
Right.
good like that. So everyone, if you need Chris's address, I can get it for you, and I'll post it on this website. No, I'm just joking. Chris, we got to take a quick break. I got to play some interviews. We got to have a little fun here. We got to pay some bills. We'll come back. You and I will do a little more chat.
Oak Designs creates custom, personalized gift products. With 2 lasers, a CNC, and all the woodworking tools needed to create your perfect gift. From board games, cutting boards for wedding gifts, and everything in between. Got an idea? Give me a shout at info@charredoak.ca. Find me on Facebook under Charred Oak Designs.
Hey guys, I want to welcome you to the segment of the show where I am joined by Mohammad Akbar, the Ottawa CUPE District Council President. Mohammad, this isn't the first time we've chatted. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's always a great pleasure to be here.
Well, it's an honor for us as well to have you grace our presence, and with everything going on in Canada, there seems to be a lot happening. So thank goodness for this show where we are able to cover it all. We have a couple headlines you and I are going to break down today on the show, and I'm very excited. And of course, we've got to talk about what is going on with CUPE 5569. Education workers condemn Sudbury Catholic School Board for abandoning negotiations. Can you tell me a little about this?
Yeah, so it's really wild. Now, one thing that should be noted is this is a new local. Folks at the workers at Sudbury Catholic District School Board joined CUPE only in 2024 in July. So they're only on probably their second round of bargaining a collective agreement. You get your first agreement in there when you join a union. I can't speak to the specifics, but this is probably their first round of bargaining after they unionize, right? Beyond the original collective agreement. So from what I understand, the board essentially told the union during bargaining that they weren't going to review proposals or counteroffer or provide any counteroffers to anything the union was providing. And in what I've read in kind of the press releases put out by Local 5569 and CUPE, they were talking about how the board just left the office after saying, yeah, we're not going to look at anything. We don't want to do anything, all that kind of thing. And this is when there was only about two articles left to be agreed upon. So yeah, it's unbelievable what employers are pulling right now, especially a public, school board, the Catholic District School Board that, is receiving public dollars, is funded by often workers through taxation, through just their contributions in general, sending their kids there. And for me, as someone who did high school in the Catholic school system, the workers who made up these units, whether it's ECE, social workers, et cetera, educational assistants, all these people work so hard in the school system, right? Especially in the Catholic school board, where you have a very unique pedagogy, right? So it's unbelievable what the school board is doing to basically the foundation of their system in the workers at CUPE.
Well, the thing is too is maybe anyone who lives under a rock, everyone knows that CUPE 5569 they're in trusted relationships with these students. A learning support, stability. In the classroom, the office, anywhere in the school. There's nothing more important than these people being there for these children. So what is these employers telling, or these employers, what are they telling the kids when the kids are hearing this? What are they learning from this? Oh, what when things get hard, give up, walk away?
Absolutely.
Am I wrong?
No, not at all. And you think about the lesson the kids are learning, they're not learning, they're losing their educational supports. So we're being needing to deal with all these other things, right? But the other issue here is that, exactly as you said, when you have a board basically saying we don't want to negotiate, these are common tactics that a lot of employers are using, but seeing it among these kinds of institutions, it hurts kids in a number of different ways. On the one hand, yeah, they're seeing people who care about them being shafted, and that's going to teach them certain lessons. But, there is a big rhetoric that we see in government and in school boards and universities and all these other places talking about how young kids deserve good jobs and there should be good jobs available. Where are those jobs? A lot of them are in the public sector. They're in the private sector too. But if you're cutting and trying to limit how many good paying, good benefit, good value jobs are out there, that's what you're doing to the youth, right? It's not just, it's such a broad issue because people think that unions are just about the workers who are in the unit right now. And they are in terms of a lot of different things. But there is the aspect of future workers who are coming in, who are going to join these units and who are going to suffer if they're facing employers who are just cutting their benefits, cutting their pay, not looking at future thinking proposals from the union. It's all around going to be a bad time.
And the worst thing about it is, and I'm going to read this so people can understand all of this, but listen to this piece that I read earlier. Since October 2024, the elected bargaining committee has met with the employer 17 times in an effort to negotiate a first collective agreement. Despite this, bargaining has been extraordinarily slow. The employer has repeatedly sought extensions, declined to secure additional bargaining dates, and shifted negotiations to virtual meetings while refusing to meet in person. How is that not a slap in the face when we're talking about children and teenagers getting educated?
Yeah, and if you look at that, like I said earlier, these folks first unionized in 2024. So the fact that they're still negotiating their first agreement, I mean, I had to assume that this was the second time and that they were negotiating like after coming to an agreement. So they've been waiting 2 years trying to get a first agreement, the first one. They're not even renegotiating anything. That's unreal. Think about you go to a job and say you're not unionized or something, and the company's just like, yeah, we'll give you a contract eventually. And 2 years later, you still haven't gotten your finalized contract. That would be unheard of in any other context. But you're kind of gaslighted by employers to think, well, it's okay. Like, this is just part of the process. And yeah, like it's a common tactic for employers to just delay. It's horrible. And it leaves people left in limbo, right?
It is such an awful way to bargain when you're refusing to meet with the bargaining committee. These people are put in these positions to get a job done. And same thing for the employer. They're in a position to get a deal done ASAP. Now, nobody expects it to be overnight, but they are in a position to get it done. So it's just, to me, it's disgraceful that we're going on this long, over a year and a half, and nothing's been done. They have not finalized anything. Do you see something coming in the near future?
Well, I mean, it's going to be a lot of pressure. And so a lot of us will need to put our solidarity in and support these workers to help push these employers, because, the reality is that a lot of employers, their strategies are just delay, because, they can get away with it in the context of labor relations. And the people that hold them accountable is workers, is the unions. Like, these are the groups that really fight for it. Governments don't care. Administrators and mediators and all this kind of thing only have a certain role to play. It's really up to that public pressure, workers pushing and, citizens who care about this kind of stuff in those communities, supporting the people in their communities. But yeah, on the employer side, there's this key thing where negotiations have to exist in good faith. And if they don't, which unfortunately behind the scenes, there isn't a lot of good faith on these employer sides who just want to bargain the lowest possible agreement, cut benefits, cut, workers, all kinds of things. They want to make their lives easier. And, on that side, being in management is not easy. You are given a responsibility and a certain level of charitability to do what you need to do to keep a workplace going. But you have to recognize the needs of the workers there, right? And find a way to accommodate and, like, again, bridge forward-thinking, proposals that are going to benefit not only the workers, but the company or the organization in the long term.
I don't think it's helping anything either that I find here in Canada, the public school system is attacked so often. When you hear the word budget cuts, it seems to always be that education or healthcare follow close behind, which is absolutely devastating, by the way, just to clear that up. But don't you ever wonder yourself, like, I wonder why it's always education and healthcare? Not always, because there are other things too. Please don't take that the wrong way. But education is preparing our future. and healthcare is taking care of the old. And I just find that too often they're attacking those things, and they're vital. I mean, education is what this country's made on. This is where we are always set up for success with it. Yet the government is so quick to slash and slash, and employers are so quick to slash and slash. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, like there is a lot of there's a lot of speculation that part of the underfunding is because people want to see these important public services like education, whether it's post-secondary or secondary or primary, or healthcare privatized, right? So in Ontario, where I'm based, there's an expectation that healthcare will meet certain needs, but there's a lot of criticisms of the system because a lot of people can't access care in northern rural Indigenous communities, for example, or even with major hospitals. Like it's very hard. There's not enough beds, all this kind of thing. And the governments don't want to contribute the actual funding needed to to give these services what they need. When I lived in Saskatchewan, because I lived there for a while, their healthcare also has similar problems, but the existing socialized medicine that they provide is better in a lot of ways than other provinces. And something I'm working on behind the scenes is a report that kind of like puts together kind of the different healthcare like models across the country and trying to compare them and trying to figure out like there's so much bureaucracy on how to like do healthcare, right? In terms of like adding new prescriptions or like treatment methods into the public system. And so part of it is you still have those roots of we want to provide the best possible care with the resources we have to as many people as we can. But if you're chronically underfunded, you can never improve, and it's just going to lead to things getting worse and worse. And yeah, then eventually people are going to support privatization, which already has a strong sentiment among a number of people because they say, okay, if I can't access what I need from the public sector, I'm going to go to the private sector and pay way more. And that's just how it's going to be. Now, the thing that a lot of private providers do is they keep costs low, whether it's public transit or just transit in general. You can see this with Uber a lot and all these other ones. Healthcare and education is they'll keep costs relatively competitive and low until they've taken over. And I think maybe we've discussed this, or maybe like you've discussed this with other folks, but it's the same thing with postal as well. That's the perfect example of this kind of model where you're underfunding a service and then you're working to kind of kill it, right? And that's kind of we saw with what the Carney government just pulled on Canada Post a few months ago, right?
Yeah,
so it's the same model.
It is really, it's awful. It really is awful. And we will continue to follow that as the weeks go on, months, until that this is resolved. And there's a deal on the table, one that we can live with, one that is respectful to the workers. And with that being said, one thing I want to talk to you about as well is we pay, we want to say. I found this very interesting when you sent this to me, and I want you to tell me just a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I'm super excited about this. And actually, I got to give a shout out to Sandra in CUPE Sudbury, who called me today about this campaign. As part of the efforts of mobilization and that kind of thing, and who's doing regular calls along with a bunch of other CUPE members on this. So the We Pay, We Want to Say campaign is a campaign by CUPE Ontario, and it's around OMERS. So OMERS, and Nick, we've talked about this, like workers and citizens, but workers especially, we provide so much in terms of tax benefits to the government in terms of like paying into these public services or into benefit pension plans like the RRSPs and things. OMERS is the municipal pension plan in Ontario. It's big, and it's governed through a variety of different processes, which include unions. Unions are on the board and they have different says. Now, the Ford government is trying to roll that back. They're trying to get rid of the democratic system of this OMERS pension plan. and just control it more directly. They want more say. They want to curtail the rights of sponsoring organizations like CUPE and others, right? Who pay the vast majority, in fact, the entire rates, everything that they're putting in, like 50% is covered by workers, right? So the government wants to get rid of this, and this is again what we're talking about, privatization. And for me, this is really important. For a bunch of reasons. As someone who's grown up low income, really the salt of the earth in Windsor, Ontario, my parents don't have access to a pension plan other than CPP, and in their 70s, what are they getting? Maybe a couple $100 because they don't know the rules. They paid what they could, or what they were told to pay. And then, they didn't really access. But the maximum rates of CPP are not that much for someone to live off of. So everybody needs pension plans. OMERS is for primarily municipal workers or other public sector workers who can join the plan. But there's, this is important for OMERS especially. But we have to take the same kind of model for folks in other provinces or across the country. When you're negotiating your RSPs, it shouldn't just be, hey, okay, here's a percentage that's going to the RSP. You want matched defined benefits so that you know what you're going to get at the end of your life, ideally, or end of working life, retirement. But you also want pension democracy. And that helps where where the funds are going. There's a lot of talk in CUPE circles about what should and shouldn't be funded with worker money, whether it's environmental divestment or wartime divestment, all that, weapons divestment, all that kind of thing. You can't do that if you don't have a democratic pension plan. And OMERS sets the example. So if we just let OMERS go, it's going to mean that it's going to cascade across the country. So CUPE Ontario is really pushing this really solid campaign. They're looking for signatures, trying to build that list of people that they can send to the government to say, look how many people want OMERS to be a democratically run pension that represents workers well and that has worker representation on its governing bodies, and so that workers have a say. That's exactly what the message is, and it's a great one that I think can be used for a lot of different contexts. I hope it gets a lot of popularity across CUPE land or across the union world. We pay, we want to say. I would go further to say we pay, we should be saying. But
we are giving so many options with it. The QR codes there in the corner. As well, you can see there's the URL on the bottom. Of course, I'm going to post this on our Facebook and on our official website, cupetalk.ca. And if you go to the website, you will see click here to protect your pension. Don't take that lightly, because the government would love to have your pension. You work your entire life for that pension. You don't just give it away. You fight until you can't fight anymore. You don't give up. And that's the great thing about CUPE is when, an injury to one is an injury to all. And I know I love that saying, but it's true. When we come together, we are a force. We're over 800,000 strong. And this is will affect everyone over time. So it starts in one place, and when they say, hey, if we can break them, then we can go break these guys next. We don't need that to happen. And that's where we make sure that we stay strong. And we're so good with laying out these things. We pay, we want to say. And as Mohammad said, if you just go there and take a look and take a read, you'll understand what it is that they want to do.
Yeah, and I'll just mention one more thing. It goes back to kind of what we talked about with the school boards, right? In Ontario, we're having a situation where, the government is centralizing a lot. So I'm sure you've probably heard about this. They've put in certain people to take over school boards and things like this, and to trustee them, basically run them, supervise them, that kind of thing. And what are these people doing? One of them in Ottawa just sold a school, right? They're making huge cuts in this kind of thing. And with the OMERS pension plan, this is, there was lots of fights 20 years ago, 30 years ago to keep this pension plan independent from government control. The government, there was a report that was put out that made a ton of recommendations that CUPE was actually very in favor of, very supportive of. The government, obviously, were like, well, we're not going to endorse this whole report. We're just going to take what we like, put that in, And then also we want to take over this pension plan, and it's through regulation, right? They want really powerful ministers, cabinet ministers, who can kind of control things and run things. And, that centralization is going to hurt everybody. And you're seeing those cuts in post-secondary education. You're seeing them in education. You're seeing them in healthcare, seeing them in pensions, seeing them across the board.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, we know what we got to do. Mohammad, I like to say that CUPE is one of the strongest forces here in Canada. It certainly shows day in and day out. I can't thank you enough because you are always willing to take time to come on this show and talk about all these different topics. Of course, this one is huge. We pay, we want to say, and I just want to say that I appreciate you, and I'm glad that you could take the time to come on the show.
Anytime, King. You keep up the great work. It's always a pleasure hearing from QB Talk in the Atlantic and listening to the show. I'm a regular listener, as you know. When you folks get a Patreon, I'll be subscribing for sure.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right, take care.
Later, brother. Hey guys, I am Nick, and I am joined alongside Baolinh and Mariful of CUPE 1281, and the strike is over, but we need to talk. Tell me what is going on. Whoever wants to start first works with me.
You go ahead, Baolinh.
Okay, well, as you know, it has been a very long strike, 14 weeks. We were we reached a tentative agreement that went to ratification, I believe the February 1st or 2nd, thereabouts. But it was a long slog. It was a nasty, bitter strike. Did we come out with everything we wanted from it? No. In fact, it was essentially a defensive strike. We were trying to defend our collective agreement from being gutted, from the union busting that had precipitated the strike. We remember last time that when we came to the bargaining table, we were met with over 100 proposals, primarily the one that was of particular offense was the gutting of our scope clause. They're trying to reopen that and bargain that in order to essentially hire more managers to contract out our work. So after 14 weeks, I think through the assistance of a third party, our mediator arbitrator, we were able to get to a deal. But we can go into that a little bit more, but I just wanted to give an opportunity to Mariful to say anything if he wishes about that slog and how we arrived at the end.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Baolinh, which is it was a defensive strike. So, the gains were not what we had hoped or wanted to achieve. And, we had really fought hard to try to get stronger language around protections against health and safety at the workplace. And, that was, it's not something we were unfortunately unable to get. But people have asked me, was this a successful strike? Was this not? It was successful insofar as we were successful in completely getting our employer from, like Baolinh said, gutting our contract, to shredding it to pieces. So in that way, it was successful. It took a very hard fight to get there, but that's what we did. But, we're not particularly happy with how, with what we have, because we aren't able to get further protections. And I don't know if you recall from last time, I'm sure we talked about it last time. Our employer had put up the job postings that was contested over the managerial positions. We're still contesting it because we still believe that the positions that they are going ahead to hire with is doing our bargaining unit work. So, and they're still going to go ahead and do that. And they were always going to do that regardless of what was going to happen at the table. And so, we're now coming back into Unfortunately, it's only been 1 week, but a fairly challenging workplace where we anticipate more challenges. We anticipate that we're going to have to use every other tool that's available to us in a non-strike situation to combat what we perceive to be a complete restructuring of our workplace that had occurred while we were on strike.
So, did you ever think when you were on strike and everything had, yeah, it's been ratified, but the fact is, to me, it doesn't sound like much changed. Did you ever think that this was going to be the outcome when it was all said and done?
To me, I think so. I mean, the way that the labor legislation is set up, management rights are management rights, and there's only so much you can do as the union, even though our collective agreement has strong language to parry some of the shocks of management trying to incur on our work and take over our work. Mariful is right, what we're confronted with now is restructuring. So what did that 14 weeks prevent that? Not so much, but I don't think that was the fault of the union. It was something that is embedded or structural in the labor relations regime. And it was disappointing, though, because even though we protected the scope clause or we defended against its reopening, I would say around week 11, 12, we were still holding out for health and safety. And what's disappointing is the employer, UFA, the York University Faculty Association, made that its red line. And what that proposal was actually not costly in terms of monetary or financial losses to them, but what it would enable was a improved workplace, the ability to determine for ourselves when we're confronted with harassment or discrimination, the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to step down from this case and it'll be reassigned to somebody else. Seems quite simple. There is provisions and other collective agreements within 1281 within the sector itself, but our employer had chosen to make that the red line, workers' health and safety, which is quite disappointing. And so we don't know what's going to happen. I assume they're proceeding with the hiring of an executive director to come in, and it's going to be, I guess, pitched battles and arbitration over what constitutes our bargaining unit work. And what they choose to assign to their manager. And in fact, what they're taking up right now, we have executive officers doing the work that we do currently.
Just to kind of add on to what Baolinh saying, absolutely, it's what we were trying to achieve and win was entirely uncontroversial. And if you recall from our last conversation, our employer is another union. And part of the challenging and difficulty thing that happened throughout the strike, but particularly, I would say, in the second half of the strike, was that they are selling to their membership that this introduction of a highly top-down managerial structure is this rank and file driven initiative. And some of their members, unfortunately, not all their members, but there is a sizable amount of their membership who really believe that this is better for their union, that this is the direction that they want, and the staff collective agreement is in the way of them being able to, railroad our collective agreement to be able to really bring down this managerial structure. And that narrative was very challenging to kind of fight against. For the most part, the labor movement understood, I think. But it's still very shocking to us that would be how they've sold what is ultimately ultimately something that most unions should be fighting against themselves at their own workplace, right? They should be, all unions should be fighting against any kind of top-down managerial kind of workplace. All unions should be advocating for a democratic, the term we often use, collegial, collaborative workplace. And that should be the end goal of every union. And for another union to fight their own staff over that was very, very disappointing, because this is something that we've had in our workplace. We've always worked collaboratively with our employer. I've only been there since 2022. Some of us have been there for 13 years. But as far as we know, this model has existed, the collaborative model has existed for 50 years at this place. So that was challenging.
One of the things that really stands out to me, and I read this earlier, was health and safety gains were limited. And the union says this remains an ongoing fight. When I think of health and safety, like I put that right up there. Like, our members, anyone that's working, health and safety is number one. I mean, everyone deserves to go home to their family at the end of the day. And when I hear that it's an ongoing fight, I often think, how can that be a fight? Like, wouldn't that be all of our feelings? Like, let's make sure everyone is safe and make sure that everything is going properly. So when I see that, it really bothers me. So I just want to ask, Baolinh, tell me a little where you're at with that, with the way that they're acting. Like, health and safety isn't all that important.
I mean, I think, and it has to do with the way that the psychological harms in a constantly changing workplace, or there's a top-down restructuring where, you might be your work, your terms and your work day to day is just changed, or the rug is pulled out from under you. But sometimes in this work, because we're dealing with conflict, we come across individuals who are conflictual, but there is a line, there is a line that I know that the employer at one point had tried to justify as the union was trying to restrict their academic freedom. That line between harassment and academic freedom is a clear boundary. I think, anybody that works in the union movement would know that, right? There are just certain things that are unacceptable, especially where human rights grounds are being invoked. So I think for me, that's going in. It becomes particularly the stress is particularly acute because on a day-to-day basis, you just don't know what's going on, what you can expect. There should be some clarity in terms of what the work is, who you would be working with. But when operations and procedures and policies are either disregarded or just changed on a whim, and not everybody gets the message in terms of how it's changed, who's going, it's a mess. So I think unions have always fought for health and safety, and I think these days on this terrain, the psychological health and safety also needs to be considered as an important sphere of struggle, that unions need to take on more of that struggle for their workers.
Absolutely. What do you think, Mariful?
Couple of things. So Baolinh already mentioned it. One of the reasons that they said that they did not accept our proposals was that it was a violation of their members to engage in academic freedom, and that we would be, somehow they believed that this proposal gave us the right to stop us from working with someone we politically disagree with, which is not true. What our proposal basically said was, if we believe that one of their members or an executive officer was harassing us, we want to be able to walk away from that case, give that case to another staff member or another executive officer who's working on that file, while the formal processes, as outlined in the collective agreement and, health and safety provisions, are properly followed through. And then, so there's a little bit of an interim distance between the two parties. Not controversial at all. It's often actually a practice that even occurs in their own workplace between their own employer and between themselves and their own employer. So that was very shocking to us that was, and that was a missive that they told their own membership to say, look, these people don't want to work for you, and they want to be able to walk away and not follow through with their duty of fair representation, which was very problematic, of course. The second thing, I think that for me, as someone who's worked for many different unions as staff before or whatever kinds of positions working for unions. It's often not talked about enough, I don't think, in the labor movement, that oftentimes labor unions themselves, and maybe I'm just saying this anecdotally, can be just as bad as the employers that they're fighting against. And I think that's a topic that, we need to talk about more often, is how can labor unions themselves be better employers to their own staff?
Really an important point, because unions are supposed to be setting the example. At the end of the day, this is about control. Control over the workplace, and the employer wants to exert as much control over it as much as possible. In unions, what we do is we try to limit that management rights within the bounds of what's reasonable, what's good, and what advances the working class, the conditions in terms of the work for the working class. But when unions themselves behave worse than their own employers, and there are instances here where we saw the York University Faculty Association behave worse than York University Board of Governors, and that really hits hard, and it does nothing to advance the broader labor struggle for working people.
So I gotta ask, where do we go from here? I mean, yes, you're back to work. However, obviously things are not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. So where do we go from here?
Well, we're professionals. We will do the work that is demanded of us. That is, in fact, we love the work that we do.
Yeah.
Where we go from here is, I guess, we are back in that labor relations regime, being bounded by the four corners of our collective agreement, and we intend to use it to defend our rights and entitlements. On the other hand, it is a collective agreement that is in place for 4 years. So bargaining at this point, we've got to assess where we are and think ahead to the next round, and hopefully secure our gains and protect ourselves with better language. But in the meantime, we are working and taking note, just logging instances of where work is being, like there's a dispute in terms of whether bargaining unit work is being performed outside of the bargaining unit. And I guess for health and safety, just to rely on whatever the provincial legislation affords us, as well as our collective agreement.
Yeah.
Mariful, please.
We're fortunate in one way that we have a good collective agreement, and that's why we were on strike, to defend a good collective agreement. But of course, no collective agreement is perfect, and we've identified issues for years for some of us that we needed certain things in order to improve that, to address those issues. So the problem, of course, as everyone is familiar with, is the speed at which trying to get justice through existing labor relations regimes, whether it's through grievance arbitrations or through, provincial legislation, whatever that may be, it's slow, right? It's slow. But I do love the job. It is there's a reason we're all here and we're continuing to defend the collective, because I believe we're good at our job. I believe my colleagues are really good at their jobs. We do deeply care about their union in the sense that we want their union to succeed, right? We are professionals. We know how to assist their members. We help them with their grievances. We help them with their arbitrations. We help them fight their own employer, that employer themselves is terrible. So, we're going to continue doing that for them, because that is our job, and that's what we're hired for. But we also have to now, think through, not only tapping in, like I said, the existing tools, but mobilize in whatever way and capacity that we can over the next 4 years, so that, in the next round of bargaining, that, we're ready to do what we need to do to fend anything else off, or try to win those gains that we did not this time around.
I think the strike has also put us in touch with many other labor unions that were confronted with similar battles against their employer, whether it was a union or not. In fact, while we were on strike, the SCIU2 staff at ETFO which is the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, also went on strike, but there were marked differences between the way that ETFO handled the communications and messaging as a union around their own unionized workers' strike versus ours. But I think one of the benefits and one of the strengths that will carry through the next round are the linkages and relationships that we've made. CUPE Ontario was exceptionally helpful. They came to Rally several times. Whenever we needed anything, they were there. The CUPE family is huge, and we benefited, whether it was from sharing our messages, our demands, amplifying our voices, doing what you're doing now with the podcasts across the country, donating to our strike funds or our hardship funds, all of those things, and even just sending messages of solidarity where it was really helpful in boosting our morale to be able to stay out for that long. But at the end of the day, this is what our bargaining unit had voted to accept a deal and return. But those linkages and lessons learned will be with us, certainly for the next round and beyond.
Well, and the thing is, too, people need to remember is anyone that wants to look, you can see it right here above me. It's the Scan Me. It is the Small Union Strong Voices. Scan it. You go to the website for 1281, take a look at it, and you can kind of keep up. You can see what's going on because obviously this fight is far from over. And CUPE being 800,000 strong, that means that it's not just your fight, it's our fight too. And an injury to one is an injury to all. So whatever they're thinking, they need to realize that they're not picking on the little man because we're actually the big picture. We are CUPE and we stand together, and they need to realize that. And we come in very big packs. There's no question about that when it comes to CUPE. So I appreciate you both taking time to come on this show today, talk a little bit about what's going on. I know it's far from being a super successful, but nonetheless, congratulations on a tentative agreement and then ratifying that, getting everyone back to work off the picket line. You guys kicked butt. And you guys were all wonderful, and we were so proud to back you and make sure that the people across Canada knew everything that was going on with 1281.
Solidarity and thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nick. If it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to maybe even have the settlement that we have now. So thank you for your support.
And we are back. Chris, those were some great interviews. You said it was a jam-packed show, and it certainly was. Now on to something. I know we started the show off very serious, and we're going to go into another serious thing because we need to acknowledge it because it's so important, and that is Black History Month. I know that you have got some information, and I would be very thankful if you could share that here.
Yeah, where it is Black History Month, I know here in the St. John area, where we are here in New Brunswick, we work closely with the Labour Council, and the Labour Council also works with an organization called PRUDE, PRUDE, which stands for Pride of Race, Unity, and Dignity Through Education. And it is a organization that was incorporated in 1981 in the city of St. John here in New Brunswick. And they envision a province where all ethnological groups work together to leverage each other's strengths, inspired by real stories, and their programs transform lives and enhance cultural diversity, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, age, disability, nationality, gender, or socioeconomic status. And you can find more information about this organization at prudeinc.org. And again, it's a great organization. I've attended the diversity awards and everything that they hold, and I can't say enough great things about this organization. One of the people that runs the organization is that we work closely with was Ralph Thomas, and again, it's just a great organization. So again, check them out, and again, yeah, it's just in recognition of Black History Month.
Chris, I want to say thank you. I really appreciate you sharing that about Prude. I also want to give a shout out to Dorinda Smith, the first vice president of the St. John and District Labor Council, who delivered a check over to them from us at the Labor Council and met with them. They're wonderful people. It's such a pleasure to be able to help out where we can and be a part of these things, because it's important for our community. It's important for everyone. Now, with that being said, as we are pretty much at the conclusion of this show, it has been a wonderful show. I want to thank you again as well for the beginning of the show and taking a moment for the victims in British Columbia. That meant a lot. I know it means a lot to you. It means a lot to Canada. So, Chris, I want to say thank you again. And if you'd like to finish this off, I know you have something you want to say. So we'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Nick. I just wanted to give a special shout out as we are watching. I'm sure everybody's glued to their TVs as much as I am to the 2026 Winter Olympics. Go Canada, go. And go Moncton, New Brunswick's own Courtney Surratt, who just won her 3rd Olympic medal. So that is huge news. I mean, it's huge news when any Olympian can win 3 medals at the Olympic Games. But when you have somebody local from your own area, it just makes you beam with pride. So now, I look at her and I think, there's a local hometown hero for all the competitive sports, or anybody in sports, or even just for anybody here in general, to see how well she is doing at those Olympic Games. And as well, congratulations to all the athletes who have made it there. And all the ones that have won medals. But I mean, even just being able to be an attendee and be at that Winter Olympics is a huge feat in itself. So a huge congratulations to Courtney. And again, go Canada, go. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, Nick.